Right. Thank you so much. Welcome everybody to Emerging Technology Subwork Group call. We're continuing our series on AI. We've had a lot of sessions on ChatGPT.
Just started.
I
just have to listen. There's nothing I need to do except listen.
Except I can hear you, Rachel. You'd be able to go mute. Anyways, we're gonna. I try to do something a little different on this one, and it's really a outreach that we did for the Education Committee. The Education Committee has been setting up a number of sessions and podcasts on AI as well, and we wanted to kind of do a review on the different types of niches that are on the AI market. So they handed me a research project, and I wanted to go ahead and really research the internet to find as many vendors as possible and the types of niches that they're focused on, and to eventually identify potential speakers and potential vendor members. And of course, we want to be able to discover innovation. But today, we're going to repurpose all this research. I've gone ahead and created a presentation that kind of summarized our findings. And we want to give you a perspectives today on the different types of niches or use cases that AI can be applied. I want you just to kind of not close your eyes, but kind of dream a little bit as you're hearing some of these topics on how possibly some of these niches might be useful in your organization. And then we'll take time, hopefully we'll have a good 20 minutes or so to share our aspirations and successful practices and perhaps some concerns about some of these AI applications. Feel free to raise your hand. Sam will be looking for you. And she'll be interrupting me through the flow where she sees I'm taking a quick breath. Also, will of course, raise your hands to be able to discuss things. You're welcome to use the chat as well. So, the study started by simply doing tons and tons of Google searches. I must have used at least 20 different combination of words to come up with AI vendors in the healthcare marketplace. We went ahead and documented in a spreadsheet all the vendors, their niches, their business propositions, some of their marketing and their URL, so we can go back and reference them. I also found a good 5 lists of AI companies. I imagine some of them were probably paid for to be able to advertise. Some were actually up to 100 to 200 different names. And so I was able to pick out the ones that are product focused and not consulting focused. Wanted to warn you on the content. Here's my disclaimer slide. So not all AI solutions are in my spreadsheet. If I didn't find them on the internet, they're most likely not in my spreadsheet. That could be because of lack of marketing, and maybe they're more focused on reference-based selling. So well, please apologize to folks that have AI solutions if I didn't find you. I found out that there are a number of cloud-based companies, naturally, that have web services that are AI-based, more generic. Some of them do have some niches that I did include in the spreadsheet. There are larger organizations like Google and IBM with their Watson and others that are just have some very broad solutions. A lot of them are solution-based, but they do have some niches as well. So I included those niches in my spreadsheet. And I did not include like people starting, vendors just kind of using AI within their applications, to augment them. So naturally, electronic healthcare record systems or electronic medical record systems, practice management systems or adjudication systems, or all the different systems out there are starting to, or many of them are looking at adding AI. So I did not include some of those use cases. A percentage of these companies have already been acquired or have folded. So you may see companies that have been eaten up by other companies. I did not go and research the actual companies and what's their current status. So I really was just searching for what is their niche? How are they applying AI? Also noting we are in the hype cycle of AI. Naturally, everybody's excited. There's lots of entrants. People are trying to find their niches. Typically, if you ever read the book Inside the Tornado, how markets and software kind of evolve, typically 2 or 3 main vendors kind of are the winners, and then you have remaining niches. that are out there. What I found were some big guys, but tons of niches. And that's what we'll be talking about today. I also like to warn you, some of these companies may have solutions that are half-baked. So they may not be real. Some consulting companies are trying to say they have different solutions. I found one company that had 5 different solutions, and when I just kind of looked up their name and their their information, they had 5 employees. So how real some of these are, it's not necessarily what we're going for today. We're going for ideas. How do you apply AI? And also, I found hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of consulting companies. I did not include those. And want to give you a big WEDI disclaimer. In no way are we recommending any specific solution or vendor. To be frank, again, I don't know if some of these solutions are real. Some of them, I don't know some of these companies, but it's some very interesting ideas that you'll find here. And by the way, the order that you'll see me listing the vendors are basically when I encountered them in my marketing research. So any questions before we get rolling? Okay, let's roll. So I found approximately 100 different AI solutions. By far, the highest percentage was provider solutions. But being provider solutions doesn't necessarily mean other people in the marketplace may not use them. For example, in a value-based care relationship between a health plan and a provider, that a partnership with another vendor, they may want to go that way. So so please, I want you to really listen to some of those provider solutions. Some pretty cool stuff. Next highest percentage was focused on drug development, followed by some value-based care or AI solutions that truly were targeted for both the partnership with the healthcare organization and the providers that were included in a VBC relationship. It was surprising. I didn't find too many health plan or payer solutions. That was really surprising. It was mostly consulting, which of course there were many, but there weren't too many of those. Also, it was nice to see some AI solutions that were focused on either a patient or caregiver type apps. I thought those are really cool. And please be mindful when you're seeing these and you're considering some of these. Be mindful to practice safe artificial intelligence. Pick them that are proved to be accurate. They adhere to privacy. They're equitable in their data. There's and all the different concepts that you need to consider in choosing a safe AI. So let's get on to the provider solutions, and how you'll see me do it. I'll talk about a category. I won't actually go through the vendor list, but you can see them. And then I've gone ahead and captured some of the unique functions that I found going through all these different vendors. So the first one is clinical data review. Providers have all sorts of records on patients. Some of them are text-based, some of them are images, some of them are the patient records out of their practice management systems or EMR systems. And how do you go ahead and have one picture? How do you go ahead and summarize that view and make it standardized? So that's what these guys are all about. I found one that actually applied corrections across all the clinical data as it was absorbing the information. Naturally, many of them use natural language processing, and of course, there's structured data to bring together the records. Some suggested proactive care, and I saw one particularly focused on attachment processing, making sure that looking at the records and looking for information that you can extract to feed, whether it be a prior auth or a claim. So that is clinical data review. Provider solutions related to prior authorization. I found, particularly when they submit the prior authorization, a number of them focus on, is the prior auth required? Now, naturally, if you're all familiar with the FHIR or the FHIR-based prior auth that's being proposed, that with party, that might be something that might wipe out some of these companies, or they may adhere to some other niche within prior authorization. I found a number of them focused on reducing prior auth denials. They have it integrated into the provider systems themselves. They have integrated AI NLP to actually autofill the forms on behalf of the payer. They go ahead and have some payer-specific rules, and they also can generate medical summaries from the clinical records as a way of being able to fill information for the prior authorization. And remember, guys, if you want to interrupt me, please use your chat or raise your hand. So something that we saw, one of our speakers, golly, 4 sessions back or so, came up with provider note-taking. And that's typically using speech recognition and some machine learning to generate notes. Basically, as you're doing your visit with your patient, you're able to have the system listen, and it relieves the doctors from taking all those copious notes into their notepad or whatever. And so you can have more face time one-on-one with the patient. And sometimes these systems actually derive action. So let's talk about some of the functions of these provider note-taking applications. They naturally capture conversations face-to-face, but also on the phone and online inquiries. They work through mobile apps or iPads or through PCs. Gains insights, of course, from conversations. Doctors can go ahead and add additional voice notes. They can assist in actually taking the next step in making appointments. Perhaps I've even heard, I haven't seen this in my research, but I've heard actually filling out a claim form, for example, and being able to include additional status updates. I've seen one that specializes in 50 different specialties, including radiology conversations, and it accelerates annotation to radiology imaging. So that is the provider note-taking space. Moving on, diagnosis and risk management, tons of solutions that are here. How do you make an accurate diagnosis, or how can you anticipate people are developing conditions? Some of the unique functions I found here include specific applications focused on radiology, behavioral health, and genomics. Reviews images for lungs, breast, neuro, cardio diagnosis. Differentiates a particular disease condition from others that present similar symptoms. That was pretty cool. Optical sensing unit that captures medical grade physiological info remotely. Uses AI with human compassion. So I guess it's suggesting you better be nicer. Using, or maybe it's the best way to be able to express your diagnosis in a human way. I think that was about. Early detection of diseases. There's a lot of machine learning about being able to see conditions building, and oh my gosh, you're developing a disease. Assist improving MRI image quality. And I saw one that actually labeled itself as the AI as a medical device, but that was kind of a new acronym that might be on the horizon. All right, keep on going here. Personalized treatment was way, really intense. Now, I didn't actually get all the different unique functions in this category. So how do we go ahead and treat our patients and treat their conditions in a very personalized way so that their condition may be very specific to them, not just the general population. So it uses a knowledge base, user data to provide personalized recommendations. This is a cool one. Diagnoses drug-resistant TB to better treat those with this particular condition. Empowers specialists to optimize treatment for patients with serious illness. I think that captures the general sense of this category. It can use naturally the patient's healthcare data, genomic data, physiological and behavioral data even. You can do some prescriptive analytics for preventable harm that has risk trajectory. Personalizes patient care and therapies for patients with complex conditions. It captures voice, audio, behavioral to include in their personalization treatment. This is one specific for dermatology with natural language processing. Hospitals can go ahead and make faster triage or transfer decisions, particularly for stroke victims. I found some stuff on kidney care, wellness tracking, assisting better provider-patient real-time communication, much like that. There's many more in this category. But I thought, wow, this is a very interesting set of functions that actually help people get treated more personally to their conditions. Now we get into some very specific specialties for the providers. Cardiology, being able to interpret and annotate electrocardiograms, continuously monitor vital signs with actionable insights, EKG algorithms with breakthrough levels of medical accuracy, focus on cardiology and stroke for this particular vendor, and also having diagnostics accessible by everyone who's involved in the cardiac care. So it's more of a share system. Okay, oncology, lots and lots of functions there, and a heavy focus on oncology. Getting images and texts from patients, early detection of cancer, focus on prostate cancer. There's actually, focus on, breast cancer as well. Mining health data for cancer research is actually feeding a data research organization. We're getting into a bunch of organ at risk and cancer treatment planning, non-invasive blood tests to recognize disease-associated patterns. Again, breast cancer, getting down to the molecular level to test millions of potential drugs, or being able to use algorithms to find out just that right treatment, and being able to analyze each patient's characteristics to provide a better clarity to the oncologist. So you can see a lot of focus on oncology. And then also lots of focus on radiology. How do you go ahead and look at those images and be able to diagnose what's really happening here? And so you'll see things with inaccuracy on x-rays. You see radiologists helping them with the process, using massive library of images with machine learning to better diagnose quality, highlighting the abnormalities. That's the challenges on these words in images. There's some things focused just on pathology. Let me see here. Recommendations on finding significant incidental findings. Things about liver, prostate, kidney, breast, thyroid, and detecting early stage cancers in x-rays. Lots of focus on helping the radiologists out there. So you want to fly through some of these other tiny little niches that are developed here. Denial management for your claims. How do you reduce denials? You already saw some of that in prior auth. Collaborative sharing between colleagues. That was kind of cool. That included some AI. Enhancing the devices for handheld devices like cameras, phones, and even drones. There's some personalized learning for providers. So as providers are going through their education, or they're keeping up to date on education, being able to using AI, say, gosh, you really should take this course because you're kind of lacking there, right? Medical coding assistance, operations management. I found that was kind of interesting. Identifying burdensome tasks, finding policy violations and illegal activity. So, here's even more. Sorry, that's just so much. Patient engagement with patients with telehealth, connects to a live nurse, even assists in with a diagnosis, in-car smart home monitoring, patient payments, the system assisting patients on how to pay their providers. This was interesting, how to grow your patient community with marketing. Nice to see MIPS and HEDIS here. Yeah, I'm very curious on how providers use drones too. I did not come across that, Heather, but yeah, that's why I kind of remarked, wow, maybe it was in an accident, or something where they would fly over. I'm not quite sure. Dental, there was one particular, it's kind of apically named Pearl, have pearly teeth. So dental AI, respiratory solutions, so listening to the lungs for obstruction. And finally, sleep apnea and robotics, so helping the actual surgical equipment become better. So that's my provider set of stuff. But when you take a look at all these different applications, whether it is focused on normalizing clinical data, uh, doing prior authorization, submitting better, of course, that you have to consider part E in the future as well, doing note taking to have more face time, diagnosis, getting more accurate diagnosis, having more personalized treatment plans that are used, generated by AI, assisting on specialties like cardiology and oncology and radiology. And then we get into all these unique little devices. So you can see lots of stuff, but also if you happen to have a value-based care relationship and you're working with a community of doctors, particularly specialists, I would think some of these applications actually might be really cool to address better people's health. So that's something to consider as you were looking at all of that and dreaming about particular applications. So if there's no questions, I'll keep on going here. I'll just mention this really quick. Drug development is big, all kinds of AI about that, helping with clinical trials, locating patients that were good for clinical trials, narrowing down the compounds, using genome editing, just tons of stuff, biomolecular AI, even using social determinants of health data. With another had RNA sequencing, 3D machine learning design, just tons of solutions. You can see all the vendors that are involved with drug development. It's not necessarily in the wheelhouse of our stakeholder groups, but I thought it would be interesting just for you to see that is a heavy AI focus in healthcare. Found another one kind of interesting that was actually utilizing data and AI to actually provide information to the U.S. Healthcare system, particularly using the patient encounters and analytics. So it's more of a population health type of a function. It's helping serve the government. So I thought that was also a little kind of interesting little call out for a niche. But let's go ahead and talk quickly about the patient caregiver. I found some folks that were working, that reminds me of sit up higher, sitting position, posture, being able to predict health risks based on your data that perhaps are on your devices, predicts not only your health risks and medical expenses over the next 5 years. Caregiver focus. So some are, if there's a caregiver involved, using AI to help prevent incidents from happening. They claim that by alerting caregivers, they can reduce hospitalizations. I found a lot of stuff on diabetes as well. So interesting. I would hope to see this really grow through time. But right now, those are only vendors I found so far. Health plan focus. Three or four main areas: customer service, being able to use chatbots, being able to, keep people, even using bots like in care management, keeping members engaged, doing things to motivate them, using an AI-powered human confidant. Wow, that's kind of interesting. Mayo Clinic had one the other day. It just blew my mind. You mentioned at our fall conference, mentioned that it actually was monitoring conversations with, based on database and based on listening to people's reactions and how the call was going. They would actually suggest things to the customer service rep how to better steer that particular conversation. That one blew my mind. Payment integrity is a very big area for payers, and so there's a heavier focus. I wouldn't say there's as many vendors involved in this, but as percentage-wise, there was, making sure, after the claims are paid or after it's been adjudicated and before it's paid, to be able to have a focus to make sure that things are being done correctly. Even using pattern recognition for fraud, waste, and abuse, looking for things like overpayments, and just being able to adhere to some of the policies in payment integrity area with audit workflows. That was pretty heavy on the health plan side. Prior authorization, this is an area where, first of all, is a prior auth required or not? Of course, that's going to be part of the medical policies for party coming forward, but also helping make prior auth medical decisions, whether you want to approve it or not, is something that a lot of people are talking about, and there's a few companies out there that are focused on it. Being able to using historical data for the auto approval, of course, using your medical policies that are involved in it as well, having some clinical intelligence baked into it as well as the attachments coming across, patient-specific paths to better serve the patient, and utilize decision support and performance tracking to follow the federal and local state mandates. So those are the ones I found in this set. And I know a lot of people are really focused on the prior authorization topic with AI. And there's some things that are going on the health plan side related to care management. One in particular that is focused on care plans to prevent the onset of developing diseases. And I've seen a number of different risk management software providers have this baked into their solution already and trying to predict conditions. So it's just not this vendor. There are other vendors out here working for the health plan with risk management. So that's a whole big topic. Okay. Value-based care, these are things that would be between providers and payers in a partnership. Using massive sets of patient data to drive improvement in clinical and financial performance. Identifying patients at the greatest likelihood of a target condition. That's back to risk management, which was mentioned on the previous slide. Actionable prediction of individual health risks, and unites, again, unstructured and structured data to deliver some insights. Almost done here, guys. And so I am done here. So what I wanted you to do, first of all, I wanted to make sure that this helped entice you on some of the solutions or niches that are out there. And thoughts back to me. Do you think I did okay? Am I missing a bunch? Maybe you've seen some other things. So please raise your hand, and I'd love for you to join us on a conversation. Well, I assume you think I did a wonderful job. But what I'll do is let's go ahead and talk through some things that you're thinking about or your organization's thinking about or you've already done successfully. Would anybody like to share some of the unique niches? We have a question from Richard from DST, or sorry, SS&C. Any sense how fraud, waste, and abuse AI might be different or more intense than existing FWA editing tools? I'm getting the sense that they're looking at their claim activity, looking about how they've coded, compared to others and how they've coded, or maybe they've already discovered trends on people possibly overcoding or charging, charging, naturally fraud, waste, and abuse looks for duplicate types of things, but maybe just a pattern, a misbehavior, and maybe highlighting different providers to focus. I think that's probably, particularly compared to the trends and compared to what other naughty providers have done in the past to the health plan. That would be my sense. Richard, any thoughts there? Back.
Can you hear me, Ed?
Yes, I can now.
Hey, okay, I wasn't sure if I could. Yeah, it's just a tricky area because you have plans that gold card providers and trust everything from this provider, and then you have providers a plan has never known, and then you have, forgive me for lack of a better word, shady providers, and so that developing a AI that can behave differently in those three different cohorts, because it would be very, very, very great artificial intelligence, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, like in prior auth, if you were gold carding, A number of gold carding programs will require the provider to continuously submit the prior auths for documentation, and having that information as for the documentation, but also for ingestion into a machine learning process to be able to say, gosh, this person tends to do an awful lot of MRIs for this particular condition, and to kind of maybe alarm or create a notification to possibly coach someone, or maybe it's someone who's not adhering to the gold card standards. So just being able to detect patterns, I think that would be a very interesting one. I didn't see that on the prior auth stuff. I saw it more on the claim side here, but I think that would be a wonderful application as well.
Yeah, I can guess, just like we heard last week, that the plans that are using AI for prior auth are not using it. They're not allowing the AI to deny authorizations, only to approve. So I would assume that the AI would still, some human would review the findings, fraud findings, before they would execute any changes or begin denying claims or putting a provider on a debarment list. It would be the same approach.
Right. I would, particularly the early adoption of AI for sure. Right. So you heard, for those that weren't at the fall conference, we did hear application of AI on prior authorization approval, and when it was had a very high percentage, but those that weren't supposedly auto approved went into a workflow rather than being denied right away, so that it had a real humanized to really check it out. So that's a good call out. Wondering, like in gold card in the future, how strict some of the the contracting is, and whether they could automate some of the catching of people, or whether it always go to people. We'll have to see how that shakes out. I think that's a good human touch to keep that going. All right, thanks, Richard. Who else wants to talk? I want to talk to you. Any concerns you have about AI, or this is a place to share. I can tell you what we're trying to do in the education committee. We are certainly talking quite a bit about what are the best practices to follow in choosing it or implementing an AI solution. And make sure you adhere to privacy, make sure that it includes all the different health equity elements, the accuracy of the darn thing, how it deals with relationships. And there's I think it's Charles, if you're on, or Rob is on here. There's an organization that's actually creating best practices. Chime, I think it's Chive. Chime, yep. Very interesting group that's trying to do making sure that the solutions that we are adopting in healthcare are truly well tested and adhere to all those policies. So important to note that. But we are spent a lot of our education on those types of topics. But I think it's really interesting for people to share the successful practices like Mayo did in some of their administrative AI. Next month, we'll actually have a senior director responsible for AI at Mayo will be presenting. So make sure you check that one out. Some really cool stuff they're doing at Mayo. And we also, at the conference, we had HCSC talking about their prior auth implementation of using some AI auto approval. We had United Healthcare also talking through some of their solutions, and that's recorded. So, there's some accessibility to check out successful practices. I really like to see us sharing with each other as we evolve together and serve the patient better, and as well as being more efficient. Okay, anyone else would like to share? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Yeah, hey, Ravi.
Yeah, Ed, thanks for the update. But me as a security person, I'm always forced to think of the bad things that can happen.
I know, right?
And the very fact that we are sharing so much, we have access to so much of information which can be accessed by anyone, anywhere. I'm just trying to see what a bad actor could do. A malicious robo doctor could misinterpret data, change the integrity of the data, or put in malicious data, mislead people, bring down hospital systems, patient care, customer satisfaction, whatever you call it. So what is the industry doing for this? Because
Yeah,
it's got, there are two sides of the same. I mean, you got the bad guys doing bad things everywhere. So
yeah.
what are we doing to safeguard this vast amount of information not falling into the wrong hands?
Right. Yeah, Ravi, oh, sorry, I was getting echo there. I totally understand. I mean, there was one of the countries out in Europe was so concerned about the data was collected by a cloud service that they basically turned them off because they didn't trust that privacy was being adhered. And so, how are, like ChatGPT, where's all that information coming from? And I've always, I've learned in data analytics when I was working back in the day that if you have too many parameters, you get too specific using de-identified data, you can locate pretty much the patient and figure out what the privacy is. So how do you adhere to some of the privacy standards? Security, of course, it's a collection of data that you're running these algorithms on, and how could you perhaps spoof an AI module? Hopefully that wouldn't happen, but lots of bad things. So that Chime group is focused on many of those things, and naturally, there's been an executive order. Rob, I know you're on. Do you want to talk a little bit about the executive order? And I thought maybe Charles, you can talk a little bit about Chime. Rob, are you out there?
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of me, but I think what Ravi has mentioned has not come without notice, both from the White House, but also from Congress. We responded to Senator Cassidy's RFI on AI, and there is a lot of opportunity as we know, but boy, there is a lot of danger with this data. So I think that might be an area for our privacy and security work group to get into. So I would encourage folks that are interested in that, maybe that could be a topic for that work group to look at the White House announcement and see what impact it could have on healthcare security.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Couldn't agree more. That was awesome. Charles, do you know much about the Chime group? And how, I know they presented, and there's certainly a whole session from the fall conference. It's a great one to go with. But any comments on Chime?
Yeah, Rob would probably wish to answer that because he's had the most recent with Chime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think the one that we.
Oh, Robbie, just
sorry. Yeah, I think what the group we heard from was from Chai. I think CHAI, not
okay.
Chime, CHIME.
Like the
I think
T.
Chime is also interested in this. Yeah,
right.
The physician who really gave a very interesting perspective on exactly what we're talking about, that there needs to be guardrails. And so you can see that this is more of a private sector effort. But yeah, I think it's something that as it develops more, I could see as maybe doing like a podcast or maybe a spotlight. In particular, on the clinical side. On the administrative side, I think as Dr. Glasser said, if there's a mistake made, it's not the end of the world. But on the clinical side, it could actually impact patients' safety.
Absolutely. I remembered, Rob, that Chai, as in T, was actually looking for possibly certifying vendors. Is that your impression as well?
That was my impression, and that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And candidly, we recommended that in our response to the government in their request for information as well.
Right. So, Ravi, does that make you feel a little better?
Yeah, sort of. Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome. Yeah, check out Chai. I think that's really important. Check out the executive order, but also love to drive people to privacy and security, because I think this is a very relevant topic we all need to be mindful of. Personally, I don't like to think there's bad actors out there, so I'm happy for people like you, Ravi, that are in the workplace preventing bad things happening. I like to make cool things happen. That's
Yeah, and
where
to
I'm
add
at.
to that, I just want to bring up another point on the equivalent of intellectual property or IP rights on this data, which is more of a
Yeah.
legal and compliance point of it. Now, you could also have fake doctors gathering all this information and practicing medicine online, right? Telemedicine is there. So many things can start up. There's so many fakes and frauds all around the world. So I know it's happening in the legal space. There are online judges and lawyers trying to come out with verdicts that's working in some places. So similarly, doctors, there could be doctors starting a genuine practice and also fake people starting fake practices, right? So and there's a lot of money in this. I mean, you can imagine the effect on the medical practice as such worldwide if misused.
Okay, thank you, Ravi. Hey, Heather, I see you have your hand up. Oh, Heather, you may want to talk a little louder. We can barely hear you.
Sorry, you had the, is that any better?
It's a little better.
Hold on, let me see if I can change the microphone. Is this any better?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so first of all, very nice presentation, very informative, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm curious, as you surveyed all of these things, did you get a sense to what degree the different organizations and the different startups and so on were using their own in-house AI versus falling back to some other AI offered by an underlying vendor? Like, to what extent were they renting their AI from OpenAI or Google or IBM or so on versus developing it themselves?
Yeah, I didn't, naturally they're not marketing that, right? They're not, saying that we're using another engine. However, I would say we had a professor from Carnegie Mellon present, golly, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, Zach Lipton. He's actually working for one of those vendors, Abridge. And he was saying he teaches courses on AI and machine learning and generative AI and all that. His perspective is that there are many vendors that are using other tools. Some are just putting a face on top of ChatGPT, and to be able to create some of the solutions, and it's really not terribly well tested or well thought out. So, that I did not get a sense of that, but Heather, I believe there is, particularly for the smaller ones, that they may have something underneath. I will say this though, I did come across a good percentage, just by, I didn't document it, but a good percentage of companies already acquired. I thought that was kind of interesting. So you're thinking if they were acquired, they must have, some IP, intellectual property that is involved. But something to be mindful of, Heather. It's a good call out. Okay, guys. Hey, is anybody doing cool stuff with AI? Okay. No cool. You guys aren't cool? I thought you guys are cool. Way to call you out. We have vendors on the call as well as health plans and providers. Any vendors out there? And we're doing a ton of AI, great AI at Athena Health. All right, that's cool. Heather, is there anything unique that you're doing with that AI that you'd be willing to share?
Well, it's a little bit hard to speak to uniqueness because, as you said, there's so many players in the space right now. that many people are doing very similar things. So, we have a lot of NLP work in information extraction from unstructured text. We have work in, auth management that you called out. A lot of the similar sorts of places, claims processing, a number of others, some of which that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But, we've had a data science team at Athena Health for over 7 years, and we've been developing AI systems in-house and increasingly looking to third-party systems to augment our in-house AI so that we, have a sort of mixed portfolio of bespoke stuff and third-party acquired stuff, but all towards solving the kinds of administrative healthcare problems that arise for us as an EHR and RCM vendor.
Yeah, Heather, thank you so much for sharing that. That's exactly, of all the things I showed, who knows how much of that is really in production or whether it's being devised, but hearing Athena Health and what you're doing, in real life is very, very helpful. So that's exactly what I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be terribly. Yeah, go ahead.
We absolutely have things in production. We are reading hundreds of millions of documents a year using our AI and doing information extraction from them and, processing, tens of thousands of claims a month and, many things. And, there's real dollar values attached to them and real effort savings, time savings values attached to them.
Is there any lessons learned, Heather, as you guys are building those functions?
Oh, a great many. It could take quite a while to talk about. There's challenges between AI engineering and sort of traditional software engineering in terms of differences in cycles, in terms of differences in capabilities and expectations. There's also lessons about data quality and data controls. A lot of kind of it's not as easy as it looks kind of lessons, but also in terms of organizational strategy, there's one way to organize a data science team is to have them sort of off on the side and people hand the problems and they solve them and hand the model back. We have chosen to take an organizational approach for our team. We do have a centralized data science team, but we integrate very closely with our product stakeholders, and we sort of own a service end to end. So we own not just the model, but the serving infrastructure surrounding it and the quality metrics and the deployment metrics and the operational metrics and, basically everything short of the front end. And doing that, I feel, has coupled us better to the real world use cases and has made us, it's challenging at times, but it makes it more, we've done a good job of getting things to production that way, let us say.
Yeah, Heather, your last 3 minutes is more valuable than what I've said all the previous time. So thank you for all of that. I've been involved with AI teams in the past, and I find that getting enough data to have accuracy, being able to continuously learn and correct when things aren't right, being mindful of, even though you're working on de-identified information, be mindful of protecting that, adhering to people sharing information is really kind of challenging. I see Evan, we work with a DSO review claims behavior with ML. Evan, would you like to talk a little bit about that? Don't be shy, we're all nice here.
So we kind of talked about it before, how, a lot of AI and ML work is being captured with the use of machine learning. So we perform that with the DSO as part of their process to identify like savings. And some of the lessons learned we took from that was one, a lot of these companies aren't really prepared or have the expertise to support some of these types of analysis. So our company's been having to come in and kind of, you know, basically train the organization on that. And then once we identify these anomalies in the data set, it's like, okay, how do you turn this into value? How do you capture that value? So helping them understand what the issues are, what are some of the traps they'll face within the organization themselves to help capture that value, and then helping our stakeholders be more aligned in negotiating with their counterparts on bringing those dollars back in the door as savings.
Evan, curious how the organization that is not typically involved with AI is accepting these new features. What do you think?
Once the value gets recognized, it kind of speaks for itself. We've already delivered, I want to say between 3 to 4 million already in like hard savings that can be captured just utilizing AI in their claims data and helping identify the bad actors within the DSO space. So it's been a very interesting project to see play out in real time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, nice stuff, Evan. Thank you. All right. Anyone else like to share? We're getting up on our time. We got 6 minutes left, but so far it was really great hearing from others. Oh, Dave here. Oh, Dave Hogan has shared the link to Chai. So Ravi, make sure you check that out. It's a very cool group. We actually had a spotlight event. I'm sure it's in our archives that was focused on AI. It was a 2-hour affair. I believe I was actually the moderator of that, and they were sharing, some of their perspectives on doing safe AI and doing it right. And Chai was on there, and the lady who was from Chai was excellent. So if you kind of go back into our archives, our YouTube archives, and look for our AI spotlight. Sam, I don't know if you're listening. If there's a link to put in the chat, that'd be really, really good to send to folks. That was a free webinar. So, hey guys, any last thoughts or any questions before we call it a day here?
Hey, I was going to share just real quick with you, since we have a couple of minutes. This is Sheila. I work for the Oklahoma Healthcare Authority, and we introduced robotic process automation about almost 3 years ago now. It was kind of slow going. The planning probably could have been better for our agency, but we've got our platform set up, and we're in a good place to kind of start doing more. But what we're doing right now is we're doing some provider credentialing, some workflow automations. We do have a prior auth automation. It's just doing a little bit, just to see what it could do type of situation. And then, I will say the biggest lessons learned one of the biggest lessons that we learned, there's a lot of them, but the biggest one I think we learned is a couple. Third-party sites using those in our automations has been a nightmare because, when they update stuff, it breaks our automation. And then the second one is making sure that our internal systems, the teams that work on those internal systems, when they're doing updates, that they're communicating that with us because they do updates and it'll break our automation as well. So those are the two biggest things is communication and because you can't do it by yourself. It relies on a lot of other resources. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there, just share that information. That's two of the biggest lessons that we've learned along the way.
Yeah, Sheila, I'm glad you called out RPA and robotic process automation. You're actually reacting to some of the decisions AI is able to make, and then actually automating a process to follow up. I think that's a very important partnership. Part of what Chai was focused on also the executive order was focus on transparency. And so when you're doing credentialing, are you being transparent and letting the provider know that AI is involved?
Yeah, the way it works is basically, I don't know that they're letting them know that. I mean, we're only doing part of it. So there's a bunch of different locations they go and verify. We started with just 2. And it goes back to the users, the staff, and they get the results, and then they continue with the verification. If they're denied, then they do further research. If they're approved, they move forward. So right now, because it is a learning curve, and we're trying to, we kind of weigh out that we're not just, oh, they're denied and they can't get serve our Medicaid members or whatever, or help our Medicaid members.
Right, that makes sense. And that, there you're not letting AI make the decision. You're with regards to the denial, it goes to people, which makes Richard Popper happy. That's what he was talking about at the beginning. So
Yeah.
that's great. So thanks for sharing, Sheila.
No problem. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Hey guys, thank you for attending today, and check out Mayo Clinic in early December. It's going to be a really good one. They've got some pretty cool use cases. Okay, guys, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, thank you.